Hi everyone, Esther here. Today I have a quick beginner flow for you for a healthy, happy spine. So let's go ahead and get started on our mats. Excuse me, bro. And then we're going to come all the way down to our backs. And then just taking a moment here to ground yourself into the mat, center yourself onto the mat, establishing neutral spine, neutral pelvis. So just making sure your tailbone is heavy into the mat. The entire back of the rib cage is heavy into the mat. And that you have a small gap between the lower back and the mat where the natural curvature of your spine is. Pull the shoulders down away from the ears. You're going to take your hands, place them on the bottoms of your rib cage. So right on that bony area of the rib cage, and wrap your hands around the entire bottom of the rib cage so that you can feel as much of that surface area as possible. And then you're going to take a deep breath in through the nose as you laterally expand through the lungs, trying to stretch them out with all of that oxygen. And then exhale as you feel the rib cage knitting back together, pulling the belly in towards the spine. So inhaling through the nose as we try to stretch the rib cage out to the side. Exhale as we deflate all that air out of the lungs. Think of shrinking the rib cage together, pulling the belly in. Inhaling deep through the nose. Exhaling out through the mouth. Keep going like that. I'm thinking of keeping my belly button connected in towards the spine the entire time. Let's do one more there. Let's take one more breath like that. So even just thinking of expanding through the backs of the lungs as well. Exhale all the air out. Pull the belly in. Awesome. And then you're going to bend the knees, putting the feet flat into the floor, and then bring the arms long by the sides. Make sure your feet are parallel, not turning out or in, and they should be about sits bones distance apart. Feet are grounded into the mat on all four quadrants of the feet. And then you're going to walk your fingertips down the mat towards the heels of your feet a little bit more, just to pull the shoulders down away from the ears. And then really think of suction cupping the arms into the mat from the fingertips, palms of the hands, all the way to the backs of the triceps. And then you're going to bring the right leg in a tabletop. So think of forming a 90-degree angle with that leg. And then bring the left leg in a tabletop. Try not to let the hips shift as you do this. And then I want you to glue the legs together. So ankles, knees, inner thighs are squeezing. And point through the toes. Really make sure that spine and pelvis are as neutral as possible. If you're having trouble establishing neutral spine, neutral pelvis, then option to imprint the lower back into the mat and see if you can keep connection through the abs that way. I'm going to try to neutralize my spine and pelvis. And then you're going to inhale as you tap your right toe down to the floor, keeping that 90-degree angle with that leg. So we're really hinging from the hip rather than from the knee. And then exhale as you pull the belly in to bring that leg back up. Inhale, left toe dips down to the floor. Exhale, pull the belly in, lift the leg back up. Keep going like this. Try to maintain neutral spine, neutral pelvis. If you're having trouble with that, then don't go down as far with that toe. So maybe you just go a couple of inches today, that's fine. And then again, option always to imprint the spine if this is not working for you, especially if you feel that belly poking up. As you lift the leg, I want you to squeeze the knees together. So make sure you're finding that activation through the inner thighs and through the entire leg. And we're really trying to initiate the movement from the core rather than the legs here. Last one here, even yourselves out if you're not even. Awesome. And then we're going to go into chest lift. So if your legs are getting tired, option to just put the feet down into the mat. I'm going to keep mine in tabletop. And then you're going to reach your fingertips towards the bottom edge of the mat to pull the shoulders down. Keep reaching as you lift the arms up towards the ceiling. Line those wrists directly over the shoulders here. And then make sure the shoulders are plugged into the back, so not lifting up to the ears. You're going to inhale here. Exhale as you press the arms down by the hips. Lift the head, neck, and chest to look at the knees. Option to keep the head down if you have any neck issues today. And then you're going to inhale, reach the arms up towards the ceiling, lower the head down. As you press down, engage through the armpits, pull the belly in, lift through the rib cage. And then lower down. Try to keep those shoulders engaged into the back. Try to keep space between the chin and the chest as you lift. So make sure you're not crunching the neck like this. Neck is long. And then I'm connecting the ribs together, thinking of sending them towards the hip bones as I lift. Make sure those knees are glued together, inner thighs are active. Last one here. And then slowly lower all the way down. Relax the arms, relax the legs, and then just give a little rock side to side with those knees, just kind of releasing everything out here. Awesome. And then you're just going to hug the knees into the chest. You're going to rock yourself all the way up. Oops, almost didn't make it there. And then you're going to fold your legs under you. Put your hands, plant them into the mat, and then you're just going to walk your knees back. So we're going to come into quadruped position here. Going into a little bit of extension work, but in a neutral spine. So I want you to stack the shoulders directly over the wrist, stack the hips directly over the knees. An option here, if your wrists are bothering you today, you can come down onto your forearms, but just make sure they're in a number 11, not in an A, not in a V. So wrist in line with the elbows, elbows stacked under the shoulders. I'm going to come up to my hands. So establishing that connection, and I think of rotating my elbows in towards each other and putting more pressure into my pinky and ring finger so that I'm nice and secure here. And then try to flatten out your back so that there's no arching and no rounding. And then bring awareness also to in between the shoulder blades. So make sure there's no valleys and then there's no mountains in between the shoulder blades. So nice flat back here. Nice long neck, and then I'm pulling the belly in away from my pants. And then you're going to extend your right arm and your left leg. So think of lifting them up and extending them out away from each other. So I'm thinking of making a straight line from my fingertips all the way to the toes. And then I'm going to set the arm down, set the leg down. And then I'm going to lift the left arm and right leg. So as I'm doing this, I'm trying to minimize movement through the hips and through the shoulders. So hips and shoulders are square, spine is flat, and belly is pulling in. So we're going slow and controlled here. Really focusing on not letting the hip shift. So I'm really pressing through the stable arm and the stable leg, just to help make sure there's no rocking there. And I'm thinking of pushing my body away from the mat as I do this. Last one here. Even yourselves out if you're not even. And then you're going to lift the right arm, lift the left leg again. You're going to pause there. Try to find that straight line from the fingertips all the way to the toes. And then you're just going to bring everything out 1 inch to the side and center. To the side and center. Keep going here. So as I'm doing this, I'm trying not to let the hip shift, and I'm trying to keep the shoulders square. And I'm pulling my belly in. I just felt my belly relax, so I made that correction there. So everything stays stable. Let's do one more like that. I think that was about 6 or so. I lost count. Let's lower down and we'll switch sides. So left arm reaches out, right leg reaches out behind you. Reach the fingertips away from the toes, grow tall through the spine, then bring everything to the side and center. Pull the belly in to help you stabilize. And then really trying not to let the hips shift and to keep the shoulders square. Nice, everyone. The more you can brace through the core, the more it'll help you stabilize. Last one. Awesome. Lower everything down. We're going to find a child's pose. So just send the hips towards the heels. Drop the chest down to the floor. And take a breather here in through the nose. Exhale out. And you're just going to roll yourself all the way up. Stack one vertebra at a time. Come up to a low kneeling position. And then you're going to come down onto your side. We're going to lie down into a sideways tabletop. You're going to rest your head on your forearm. And then we're going to really try to find that perfect 90-degree angle. So just like when we're lying down on our back. So you want to think of your knees being in line with your hips, and then your ankles in line with your knees. And then still trying to find that neutral spine, neutral pelvis here, just like when we're lying down. All right, so really lengthen the spine. Make sure your hip is stacked, your top hip is stacked on top of your bottom, knees are stacked, ankles are stacked. And then you should have a little mouse house here. So instead of sinking your sides of the obliques down into the mat like this, think of pushing this hip towards the bottom of the mat to lift your obliques off of the mat. So a little mouse can run through there. And then I want you to think of pulling this top shoulder down away from the ear. So make sure it's not crunching up like this. Chest is broad. So make sure also that you're not rounding the chest forward and collapsing. So try to lengthen the spine there. I know it's a lot of alignment that we have to establish, but it makes all the difference here. You can either put your hand on your hip or you can put it down into the floor like a kickstand. And then you're going to lift the top knee up to a hover. So knee in line with hip, ankle in line with the knee. And then you're going to extend the leg. Think of aiming the heel towards the corner of the mat. And then you're going to bend the knee in as you pull the navel in towards the spine. So extending, tightening all those muscles, tightening the glutes, and then bending. As I'm doing this, I'm trying to keep my upper body still. So upper body doesn't move, hips stay stacked. And my belly is pulling in. And then I just caught myself. My rib cage always wants to flare out. So I have to be really mindful of that. And I like to exhale, extend. Inhale, bend. Check in with that shoulder. Mine wanted to lift. So now I'm trying to pull it down more. Let's hold the leg extended. And then you're going to point through the toe. And then you're just going to lift up a couple of inches and down. As I'm doing this, I'm trying not to let my upper body move. So check in, make sure you still have that mouse house under the obliques. Hips stay stacked. So try not to let the hip open up like this. So it's a small movement, probably for most of us. Last one here. And then you're going to come to neutral. You're going to flex the foot. You're going to externally rotate. So I'm thinking of my toes pointing up to the ceiling, and then I'm rotating through the hip socket, lifting up a couple of inches, internally rotating the toes down towards the floor, and then lowering down 2 inches. As I'm doing this, I'm really focusing on not letting my hips shift. So everything is stacked. Upper body doesn't move. Core is engaged and spine is long. Let's do 2 more like that. And last one. And then you're going to come down to neutral, bend the knee, stack them, relax it down, slap out that hip if you need to. You probably need to. All right, and then I'm going to push myself up, and then I'm just going to shift over to the other side. We'll lie down onto this side, and we'll do it all over again. So making sure we establish that alignment. So I always like to run my hand up and down my spine behind me, make sure I have even space all the way up and down my spine towards the edge of the mat. So if you're looking from overhead, you should see a straight line from your shoulder to your hip bone. All right, so finding that tabletop position the best you can. If you have a mirror, it's a little bit easier, but I don't have a mirror now, so I'm just doing my best. All right. Find that mouse house, find that straight spine, and then you're going to hover the top knee up just slightly. You're going to extend the leg, aiming towards the corner, front corner of the mat, and then bending the knee, pull the belly in. And I'm trying to keep that alignment from hip to knee, knee to ankle here. Check in with that spine, make sure it's nice and long, and I'm finding that length as I extend, trying not to let the upper body move. So it's definitely harder for me on this side. I feel like we all have one side that's a little bit stronger. Now hold that leg extended, point through the toe, find that length, and then you're going to lift up and lower down. Trying not to let the upper body move. Definitely more challenging on this side, for me anyways. So just always making a mental note too, which side is weaker today. Sometimes it changes from day to day. Last one here. And then you're going to flex the foot, externally rotate, lift up, and then internally rotate, lower down. Try to go slow and controlled so that we're not letting anything else in the body move. Faster is not always better. Oftentimes in Pilates, slower is better, but not always. All right, let's do one more like that. And then you're gonna come to neutral, bend the knee, place it down, slap out that hip. Whew. All right, and then you're going to push yourself up to a seated position. And then you're going to bring your legs into a Z-sit. So your front knee is just folded in front of you, and then your other leg is folded behind you like this. And then I'm gonna place the hand closest to the thigh onto the floor, and then your other arm extended out to the side. And then we're gonna go into a mermaid stretch. So let's kind of take this first one slow. Let's lift the arm up to the diagonal. Spine is straight here, so we're not leaning over yet. And then I want you to think of shifting the rib cage closest to the hand towards that hand. So now I'm kind of like laterally flexed on this side already. And then you're going to keep that shift of the rib cage as you reach up and over. So I like to push into the mat just to find even more flexion there. And I'm imagining like I'm in between two panes of glass, so not allowing my chest to fold forward or to rock back. So shoulders are level. And then you're going to come up to center, arms come to T. And then you're going to reach the other arm up to the diagonal, shift your rib cage that way, and then we'll find our counter stretch here. Now we'll flow it out, sync the breath. So inhaling center, exhaling, reach up and over. Keep going like that. As I'm doing this, I'm making sure the shoulders stay relaxed away from the ears. So always keeping that space. I'm finding that flexion and I'm trying my hardest to keep my sits bones glued into the mat evenly on both sides. Definitely not perfect today. I feel tightness in my hips, but you know, we try our best. Let's do one more each side. Last one here. And then come all the way up, and then we'll switch sides. So you're just going to flip the legs to the other side. All right, and then let's establish our alignment here. So make sure those sits bones are down into the mat. One hand on the floor to start, other arm to the side. Let's do one just up to the diagonal, and then reaching that rib cage towards that hand, up and over, and then come to center, and then up and over to the other side. So really checking in with the shoulders, keeping them aligned, making sure that they stay relaxed down the back. Always finding length here. So it's a lift up and a reach over. And then just always remembering those two panes of glass so that we don't collapse through the chest. One more counter stretch here. This feels so good. And then come all the way up. We'll relax the arms down. Nice work. So now we're going to work on some rotation of the spine. So I want you to extend the legs forward, and you're going to flex the toes back towards the face, and I want you to grow really tall through the spine. So if you're not able to do that, if you're finding that you're rounding here, or maybe you have to lean back like this, or it's not working, try to bend the knees and see if you can straighten out the spine that way. So we're looking for our neutral spine here. I'm going to straighten my legs, and then I'm gluing my legs together. So inner thighs, knees, ankles are active here. And then you're going to pull the shoulders down away from the ears. You're going to reach the fingertips towards your toes, engage the shoulders down into the back, and then you're going to bring the arms wide to a T position. And then I want you to really think of reaching the fingertips away from each other and growing tall through the spine. Inhale here. Exhale, you're going to rotate towards the right. You're going to do 2 little pulses at the end of the movement. Inhale, come to center. Exhale, rotate to the left. Pulse, pulse, and center. Keep going. As I'm doing this, I'm growing tall as I rotate, pulling the belly in. And then I'm paying attention to my alignment of the hips and the knees. So I feel my knees really wanting to shift. So I'm really having to work to keep the hips stable so that I don't come out of alignment. Let's do one more each side. Try not to let those hips shift. Shh, shh. And then come back to center, lower the arms down, and then shake out the legs a little bit. All right, and then I'm gonna just scooch my butt forward. I'm gonna bend the knees, put my feet flat into the mat, and then I'm gonna articulate down the back, coming down, oops, I lost it there, all the way down to a lying down position. So supine on our backs. I'm gonna bring my feet about 6 bones distance apart. I like to walk mine a little bit closer in. We're gonna go into some bridge work. So try to neutralize the spine, neutralize the pelvis. So tailbone is heavy into the mat, entire back of the rib cage is heavy. I really have to think to pull the ribs down into the mat or it doesn't work out for me. And then I'm gonna walk my fingertips towards my heels a little bit more just to pull the shoulders down away from my ears. So neck is long. And then I'm gonna try to suction cup the arms into the mat from the fingertips, palms of the hands, all the way to the backs of the triceps. All right, make sure your feet are grounded into the mat on all 4 quadrants. Inhale here, exhale, lift the hips up to the ceiling, find your bridge. Pause here, so make sure from side view, you should try to find a straight line from the knee to the hip to the shoulder. Try to have an apple's distance between the chin and the chest. Little tuck of the tailbone so that your rib cage is connected and your belly is pulling in. And then I'm really pressing my arms into the mat. And then you're gonna inhale as you lower the hips down, try to maintain neutral spine, neutral pelvis, and then exhale as you lift the hips up, squeeze the glutes. So not clenching the butthole, but just definitely engaging the glutes there. And then I'm thinking of my hip bones as the first thing lifting, and then my butt as the first thing touching as I lower. So just thinking of that so that I maintain neutral spine, neutral pelvis. And then bring awareness to what your feet are doing. Make sure you have even pressure through all 4 quadrants of the feet so that you're not rolling out or in on your ankles. And as you lift, I want you to think of sending the knees over the toes. Try to lengthen out through the top of the body. Let's hold the hips lifted. I'm gonna reposition my shoulders because I feel them wanting to come up towards my ears. So I'm pulling them down, and then I'm just gonna do little pulses with the hips, down an inch and up. Squeezing the glutes here. Try to make sure that belly is pulling in. I just felt mine poking out, so I made that adjustment. Try not to roll out or in on the ankles here. Last 2. Last 1. Lower the hips down. Hug the knees into the chest. Give a little rock side to side. Bring the hands behind the knee folds. Extend the legs up to the ceiling. And then just flex the toes back towards the face. So try to find the straightest version of your legs here by tightening all the quad muscles. So those muscles above the kneecaps. And I'm thinking of sending my heels up to the ceiling and flexing every toe from the big toe to the pinky toe back towards the face. Breathe into this stretch. Try to neutralize the spine and pelvis into the mat. And then pull the feet towards the face a little bit more. Awesome. And then you're going to bend the knees in. And then I'm going to bring the legs into tabletop here. And then I'm going to bring the arms out to the sides. And we're just going to do a little bit more ab work. So you're going to really think of connecting the shoulders into the floor or into the mat. And then you're going to inhale the knees over to one side. But make sure your knees are staying in line with each other and your hips are staying aligned. So one hip is lifting. And then you're going to exhale, try to pull the belly in to recenter the legs. So inhaling, I'm checking in with my opposite shoulder blade, making sure it doesn't leave the floor. Exhale, pull the belly in away from your pants to center the legs. Keep going like this. Try to maintain that perfect tabletop position. Make sure the knees are in line with each other. Shoulder blades are glued into the floor on both sides. Try to find that work through the abs. Take it out of the legs, out of the rest of your body. Let's do one more each side. Last one here. Even yourself out if you're not even. Awesome. Come to center. Hug the knees in. Just give a little rock side to side here. All right, and then I'm just going to rock myself up. Fold the legs under me. Plant the hands into the mat. I'm going to walk my knees back, and then I'm just going to curl my toes under. I'm just going to do a little, I'm going to walk back a little more, and then I'm going to send the hips up towards the ceiling, plant my heels into the mat, lengthen my spine, just a little downward dog. Stretching it out, and then I'm going to walk my hands back towards my toes, coming into a forward fold, just hanging out for a moment, checking in with the body, just kind of noticing how it feels now. Hopefully a little bit better than when you started. And then take an inhale here. Exhale, begin to slowly roll yourself up. Stack one vertebra at a time. Slowly coming all the way up to standing. Once you're up here, let's shrug the shoulders up to our ears. Drop them down the back. And you're finished. Great work today. I hope you enjoyed this workout. Have a great day.